Just another brother with another humble question. Just another brother with another humble question.
Welcome to another episode of A Brother with Questions. I am your host, B. Appreciate you for joining me. Before we dive into our video today, let me ask you to like and subscribe to the channel. Please comment and hit the notification button. Hit that little bell, bing, so you'll know when these videos are dropping. They typically drop every Monday and Thursday, but hit the notification bell for me. And don't forget to share it. Share it with a friend. Today, man, we're going to watch this short clip. It's all over the news. The children, the youth are protesting. They're doing what they're calling pro-Palestine protests, and they're even doing encampments on a lot of campuses across the country. So we're going to watch this short video, and then I'm going to offer some thoughts and opinions real quick. So let's watch the video.
Well, officials in New York City say outside agitators influenced the encampment there at Columbia University.
That camp was broken up by police last night, and it comes as more are popping up all across the country.
Fox's Anna Eliopoulos has the latest.
Protests breaking out at Fordham University in New York on Wednesday, where students have started their own encampment inside a building. It comes hours after police swept an encampment at Columbia University. That school's lawn now clear of tents. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says officers arrested nearly 300 people during the protests at Columbia. And
I know that Columbia one certainly seemed like it got out of hand. I believe they took over an academic building, and then you can see from that picture you had what seemed to be 40 so tents in part of the yard there.
City College of New York overnight. The NYPD now working to determine how many of those in custody are students or, quote, outside agitators.
There were those who were never concerned about free speech. They were concerned about chaos. It was about external actors hijacking peaceful protests.
Columbia's president says the school had no choice but to call police after demonstrators took over an academic building. City officials say the NYPD used drones and encrypted radio channels to plan their deployment.
That's wild. The police had to break into the building just to be able to get access so that they could get some of these protesters out of one of their academic buildings.
The university now asking officers to remain on campus through graduation.
We're going to see how we can assist them, make a determination how many officers that will be needed to do that.
Meanwhile, protests appeared calm at UCLA on Wednesday, hours after dueling groups erupted into violent clashes.
They started hitting each other with sticks, and there were a lot of moments where there were a bunch of pepper sprays going on.
In just the last 2 weeks, more than 1,000 protesters have been arrested at campuses across the country. Anna Eliopoulos, Fox News.
Okay, so there's a little video.
Announcing on
I'm gonna stop it right there. But let's have just a quick conversation about these protests. And then I was watching in another video, you got several schools across the country. We're talking probably 40 or 50 different schools across the country or more have pro-Palestine protests going on right now. And then it's even spreading across the pond. And so there are young people in college in Europe and other places who are now so starting to do pro-Palestinian protests. And so here's my comment, and you tell me what you think. But as I was thinking about this, obviously what's going on in Israel and Gaza is very concerning, right? So, everybody knows the story, right? There are actors, Hamas had an attack on Israel October 7th. And since then, Israel has been purposely destroying that country. I don't know any other way to say it. They've been purposely destroying that country in an effort to destroy Hamas. And so at this point, you know, the destruction is just getting worse and worse and worse. The death toll of civilians is just growing and growing and growing. And at this point, the civilians are pretty much just at the whim of what Israel wants to do, which there's a lot of people, you know, even beyond these students, if you go listen, who are criticizing the method in which Israel has decided to destroy Hamas by ultimately destroying Gaza. So that, I mean, that's not a new thing, but the protests that the students are doing is sort of what they say is getting out of hand. But here was the perspective that I had. I blame the media and society for what these students are doing. Now follow me on this and comment too. Tell me what you think. So this is the same generation who argued that pronouns, well, no, let's go back, who argued that and really pushed the idea that there's more than one gender, right? And they push, right? The push got even bigger, right? Because the conversation got bigger. And at some point, society as a whole, at least in the public facade, right? In the public square, if you will, we are now arguing and we're even trying to validate the idea that there is more than one gender, right? And as their generation does, they're expanding on what that number even looks like. It seems like yearly. Okay. So from there, right, this is the same generation that is arguing about pronouns. And they have successfully, I might add, got that into the public square as well. And so, I mean, you know, you got at this point, you have the president. Well, I haven't seen the president, but let's say for sure the vice president acknowledging the pronoun conversation. You also have, this is the same generation that if you were to ask them, you know, a man who transitions into a woman, are they a woman? This is the same generation would argue down that yes, they're women because they said they were, right? And so again, that was in the public square, right? That's a popular movement. That's, you know, you go to a college campus today and you ask the student, you know, if a man who transitions a woman, is he a woman? They would hard down argue. These are the same students, in my opinion. They would hard down argue that yes, he's a woman, right? These are the same students who, if you ask, should these same women, as they say, should they be allowed to be in women's sports, right? Should this man who's transitioned to a woman, who's now a woman, should he now be allowed to transition into being able to play female or women's sports? They would go, yes, of course he should, right? These are the same people who put that in the public square who will argue you down that these are the things that should happen. And now in the public square, we are pushing that agenda as well, right? So these also the same students who would argue that America has been traditionally a racist country, right? America has traditionally is dominated by the white man. And these students are arguing that we need to break down these systems that they have in place, right? This is all, you know, kind of back up that CRT movement. Now, again, are these students the only ones pushing for that? Of course. These students aren't the only ones pushing any of these agendas, but these are the same students who hardcore believe these agendas and who have, I would say, successfully argued and petitioned and got these things in the public square to the point where, again, at the highest levels, vice president, president are acknowledging these issues that if you look at the older generation, will probably say these aren't important issues. But for them, these are core foundational issues that they are demanding that we pay attention to and do something about, right? And so here we are, right? They've got all that going, right? These are the same students that would probably be participating in BLM marches, right? Same students. And again, when they put this in the public square, right? They got cheered on for that too. But now here we are. Now they've crossed the line that the public square doesn't want to acknowledge, right? Because the people on the internet who are arguing with them, they're not the mainstream media. The mainstream media is arguing against them. So now that you've empowered these same students, you've empowered them through all those questionable, in my opinion, public square arguments, and you've empowered them. And so now they're empowered enough to now go for their next target, which is the pro-Palestinian movement, as they're calling it, right? Because as they see it, the Palestinian people that live in Gaza are being mistreated by this giant, as they see it, of Israel, really, and because Israel is backed by the United States, ultimately the U.S., which is why I believe you have so many students protesting in the U.S. Now, because they're against the public square, now they're a problem. But my argument is, you created the problem. You empowered these students to enough to let them see that if they make a big enough fuss, they can change the public argument. But what these students haven't realized is that in their naivety and thinking that they were doing this, they weren't. This is what the agenda was. But now that you are going against the agenda, they're going to crush you. But this is your baby media, what I'm referring to as the public square, coming back to bite you. Because you've shown your baby, if you make a big enough stink, we'll bow down to your demands. But now your baby is pushing against your grain, and now you want to squash the baby. But it's too late. The baby already feels empowered. The baby has already seen the power of what it perceives they can do when they join together. How they feel like they can change the public sentiment, the public square, if they just band together and show how strong they are together. Now that baby is trying to push back against your narrative. And that's the danger of pushing what some would call unpopular, small fringes of movement. Because you can give it a little bit, give it a little bit, give it a little bit, but eventually it's going to get stronger. It's going to get bigger, and it's going to bite you back. What you going to do? So I'll be interested to see, for me, where this goes. How strong of a movement, how strong of a crush do they put on these students? Because these students are now against the grain. The government isn't backing down. The government is going to support Israel. The government is probably going to give Israel more within the next few months. And in an effort to help them in whatever campaign that Israel sees fit. So it would be interesting to see how committed are these students and how bold is the machine at trying to crush them. I disagree that these students are ultimately out to be anti-Jewish. I don't think that's their goal. In their minds, they're just trying to speak up for what they perceive as a people who aren't getting any love and appreciation right now. But this is your fault, media. This is your fault, public square. Because now your baby is biting you back. And now you're either going to have to crush it or let it breathe. But what we know you aren't going to do, because the president has made it pretty clear where he stands on this. Whatever Israel wants, Israel is going to get. And I don't see them changing their mind. So how are you going to crush your baby? And on that note, I'm B. Period, and I'm out.